Your host, Ed Fields, and co-host, Rogan Smith.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith and Candy. How you doing, Rogan?
Okay.
Osprey is here with us as well.
Hola.
Always happy to see you, Osprey.
Okay. And let's see. I'm looking up. I'm trying to actually find the number for Mr. Pat Rahming to make sure he's aware of what's going on. I had his number at one time, but we only had his office number, so I just want to follow up with him and see if he is coming. If not, we'll have another chat. But he'll be here, I'm sure. We sent him emails and stuff. How you doing? How was your trip?
It was good. I had a bad cold on the trip, so.
You still sound a little coldy.
Yeah.
As they say.
I'm better than I was before, but yeah.
I'm not wood. I'm one of the few people who seemingly have avoided this flu and cold and stuff that's been going around. A lot of that's been going down.
I had avoided it too.
Yeah.
My husband gave me this. Oh, you're so sad. He's spraying the Lysol on me.
Lysol, that ain't help nothing, man. Not at all, you know.
This is the ending stage, I think.
Yeah, and that's when you catch it.
That's when you catch it?
Mm-hmm.
That is it. That was initially. But true? Oh, man.
So,
that was like the initial stages.
Anyway, when I take a break, I'll chase down a number. You know, the thing is, a small country, you can always chase down people. You know, you have people who know people who have the number for people and that kind of stuff. So, because I'm really actually looking forward to having this discussion with Pat.
We were playing some songs earlier with Baintown Woman.
Pat Rahming?
Yeah.
Man, I love that song.
And 6 and 4 and all that kind of
Man, that man
6
is
and
so
4 and all that
talented.
kind of.
So talented.
You ever seen his book?
Mm-mm.
If he brings his book, it'll freak you out. It's got
what is this like?
it's
with his
poetry
lyrics?
and lyrics and drawings.
He travels with it.
It's like a diary that he travels with. He probably has gone through 40 of these books because obviously he's doing it, you know, on a regular basis.
Oscar was telling me that he used to do the caricatures back in the day. Was it to make money? I didn't know he did.
But he's a great artist. You know, people don't realize that. He's a great,
I didn't know because you have the Eddie Ministers and whatnot, but yeah.
And he's an architect as well.
Yeah, I knew
of course, you know that.
Oh, let me just say something real quick. I want to say, we have a lot of people who always tune into this show. One of them is Don Taylor. He listens religiously, so I want to acknowledge him on radio and say thank you so much for always tuning in. And of course, Tavares LaRota, who always gives some good commentary on the show. So thanks so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
I'm doing a little text because I want to get someone to get that number for me, but we can always track it down in the break. Yeah. So, a couple of things that have been going down. One is this new interception of communications bill. And,
excuse me.
I assume, and I'm going to play the devil's advocate for a second, and then I'm going to go to the opposite direction, that obviously any country, no matter where you are on the planet, especially nowadays, want to have some mechanism whereby the correct enforcement agencies or, what do you call it, national security agencies, have some way of tracking down, threats. Okay. Now, having said that, I mean, and let's face it, they've got the CIA and the what is it called in England, the M5 or whatever the people are called. They got all these agencies. Everyone's got them. And by the way, I don't believe for 1 second that they can't even do it now. I'm sure that people they're tapping into phones and stuff right now. So to be the devil's advocate, I would say, so it's kind of interesting that they are actually trying to have legislation to do it rather than just doing it and you don't even know. Because in a, I suppose, a completely civilized society, it would be where they go to the courts and get permission to get a warrant to do this.
Yeah,
right?
they have to.
Right.
Tap your phones and all that.
because that's the thing what I don't understand. And because right now the police, and maybe this will be when we have some people on, I'm hoping we can have some people on Thursday who've dug into this more deeply. is I assume if the police wants to do that now, can't they go to the courts to bug someone or to tap someone, or there's no provision for that?
I'm sure they can. That's been done before.
And because I think what they're saying is, in some respects, the act. In fact, Fred Smith, who was the Grand Bahama human rights guy, said that. And I'm echoing Fred Smith's words, where he said that everyone understands that you need something to protect yourself against threats, and that the act that was done in 1971 is outdated because they didn't have the technology that they have now.
Right.
In fact, one of the things that we should be concerned about as citizens is other people who are not the government hacking in to our private stuff. And how does the government, remember we had the lady here who was the data commissioner, how they stop people from doing that, you know? So there's these real world 21st century concerns. But, now this is on the other side, the capacity for abuse
absolutely
is what is obviously scary to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we Bahamians are not very trusting people because they've seen what's happened in the past. And because of that, there is a reluctance on our part for Big Brother to invade further into our personal space, whether it's on our cell phones or whatever other technological means that we have. A lot of people are very fearful that the police will be monitoring them. And I would think that the police would monitor you if they have a reason to, in the sense that they believe you're involved in some sort of illicit activity, there's some crime, and then that's a reason for them to look into it. But there's a fear that they're going to go a step further and use it for political abuse to find out certain things about you. And I certainly understand that fear.
The question, I mean, again, the big mystery I have is, if you have an evil government, let's say you have an evil government, what stops them?
Exactly.
This is where I got to really do the research. I'm rallying with some people who are involved in this whole process of killing the bill, so to speak, because the one thing you want to do is step back and get some analysis, because I think that a lot of people's immediate concern is that, hey, hold on, we didn't really know we don't know what's going on, you know. So let's have some discussion as to about what's going on and how you can rest our fears. I mean, let's face it, the average person obviously probably would never be subjected to this, right? But there are a lot of people who might want to be talking about advocacy issues.
Absolutely.
People who may say something against the government of the day, whoever that is. Because that's the other interesting thing. You know, whoever puts it in, the reality is it can also be used against them. That's why I try to err on the side of, like, not complete panic, because it isn't like, the KGB, who are the government, hopefully, it never changes, right? And it's just like this, communist-style government who is in power forever and is always watching you. I mean, in theory, we live in a democracy where you'll have change of governments.
Yeah, but
so whatever they're subject to.
Yeah, they don't care about the fact that, they might be subject to it as well. I think sometimes when people get caught up in their feelings, they just want to do what they want to do in that moment. And we've seen instances where members of parliament have read private emails on the House floor. And so that reluctance is going to be there, that hesitancy. People are just going to be very frightened, and I understand why they feel the way that they do. I think in the coming days, weeks, and months, they need to outline exactly what this bill is going to do. And like you say, seek to arrest fears, because people are not going to be very comfortable with that.
Well, here's a couple of things. I'm just throwing this out as fodder for people to think about. We had, I don't know if you were here, I think you were, Fred Smith on the line.
Yeah, I was here for
that. At one point when we dealt with the emails. And then, of course, we had Mr. Mitchell. I don't know if you were here for that.
I wasn't here for that one, no.
And the interesting thing is, the big issue there was not so much the reading of the emails, but the fact that there was privilege, that you couldn't go against them in the House. And one thing that stuck in my mind, and it kind of, is that Mr. Mitchell said, and I don't know if Osprey was here, but Mr. Mitchell said, well, we can change the law. So, like, in other words, if the Privy Council, because this was supposedly it went to the Privy Council, that if the Privy Council rules against, no, actually, I don't know if it went to the Privy Council. I'm not sure. But if it went to the Privy Council, that the House of Assembly could just change the law to prevent it, right? The thing that I'm concerned is also there was this thing where Minister Fitzgerald was fined, or I think fined $150,000. I'm thinking in my mind is like this law being put in place so that fine doesn't apply. You know, okay. So there's all these things going on.
I wonder what happened with that fine. By the way.
So there's all the, maybe it's subject to when this law is come, it might happen. So there's all these things that are swirling around. But this is also another thing to consider. Something this on the surface that seems to be that cause so much angst. It doesn't seem like this is something you would want to do right before an election.
No, it certainly doesn't. No.
You know, it seems as if like,
unless you're really convinced that you got it in the bag and nothing you do could change the results.
Because I think if people, it's like saying, I mean, you know, you go to the extreme, right? We're going to introduce torture. You know, if it's, you know, some of them the way they introduced, we're gonna introduce the torture bill prior, 2 months before the election. I think this is a game changer for the election. And people say, we're going to introduce torture. People would freak out and you wouldn't win, right? So my thing is, why would someone introduce something that would create controversy prior to an election? Unless it's ill thought out, ill planned. Didn't think that there would be. It didn't think that there would be a reaction.
I mean, I don't know how they could possibly think that there wouldn't be a reaction to that. The minute you mention, infiltrating people's smartphones and stuff, that's going to automatically elicit a certain reaction.
But when you're sitting around in an echo chamber, and someone has a rationale for something, you'd be surprised what people can come out with. But that's my thing, is that there's so many ifs, ands, buts, whys, how. That it's better, and I would even say, this is something, maybe the approach is like, look, let's not introduce something like this before an election. It's like the judge thing, with Trump, and they say, well, should he be picking a judge before the elections? I don't know. Maybe you should. Or
maybe the government says, you know what, we're always crying about crime in this country, and we have an opportunity to take a step that will really put a dent in it by monitoring people, and that's why we're doing this.
There you go.
Sometimes you say we want new solutions to problems,
and
they offer you something new, and you automatically reject it.
Well, see?
The government has an opportunity now to present its case and explain exactly what's going to happen in this bill, and that might change some minds or allay some fears. So let's wait and see.
I can guarantee. You got a break? We got a break. Okay. Well, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about it. But then we have Candy with us, and I'm going to hunt down Pat. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here, along with Rogan Smith. We were just talking about you brought in the music before time. I'm just letting you know that.
I thought I heard Kenny.
Yeah. You can die that down now because you brought it in the wrong time. No problem. You can die that down now.
You can speak.
No, you can die that down now.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah, I'm directing you to die it down now. Just going back to this thing about this bill, is that I just think that it is. I don't know. You're absolutely right about them clarifying. What I think is that at this heightened political season, okay, it is almost ludicrous to bring up something that just on the surface of it is controversial to the extent that there are people, and I'm saying this now, and I'm not taking a side on this for the purpose of this discussion, that if you've got the best rationale on the planet, they're not ready to listen to it because it's political. It's a political season. There are from very, very appropriately minded people who will listen and hear. But the reality is, when you're dealing with a political party scenario, it's night and day. No one's listening.
Well, I'd advise people to just stop running off of emotion and just really listen first, and then you can react. Because I think we tend to do that a lot. Like they put something out, and then we go, "Oh, what they're trying to do," and then you hear it later, and you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, okay, that seems pretty reasonable." I understand what you're saying, Edward, but I wish people would just kind of just sit back and say, "Let me get all the details first before I form my opinion on this."
And unfortunately, and I wish they would do that on every issue. Unfortunately, is that in the season we're in, there are people who are not going to let you do that. It's like Trump now with the fake news and all that. The selfish agendas of politics don't allow for the majority. What did Trump say? Oh, the public don't know. The press. He said the public don't know anything. I know everything. He says I know. I only know.
He's a mess.
Yeah. But I've been watching Facebook, and there's a lot of flack going down on him. A lot of people who ordinarily might align with him or whatever seem to be just. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing. All right, so we have Candy with us.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Oh goodness. Yes.
So how you doing, Candy?
I'm good.
Good. You got to pull that mic up.
I feel like I'm in the naughty chair.
Well, you can push that down if you want.
I don't think it can. It doesn't go down.
Oh, okay.
I just feel like
that's a chair that they use for over there. Yeah.
But when
you can pull that mic up a little bit for me, please, if you don't mind. The mic. Yeah. There you go.
Because is that better?
Yeah, a lot better. Instead of listening to your chest, we're listening to your voice.
What run are you on today?
No, it sounds, but you don't hear it in the headphones.
No, I can hear myself.
Okay. So what's up? What's going down?
I'm good. I feel like I'm sitting. I'm sorry. You know when you get in trouble and the teacher puts you right in front of her.
What happened to the other chair?
Her desk or his desk. Yeah, I feel like I'm just right in front of the teacher's desk.
But what happened to the other chair?
I don't know.
It was 2 other chairs.
Anyway, it's neither here or there.
Yeah, someone stole our chair. That's what it is.
I feel very high.
Yeah, you get chairs and they take it for their own.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did that. So what's going on?
Nothing much. Going to that game tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, sand soccer. Go and check out the new stadium.
The stadium.
Looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You going to a?
Oh yeah.
That's not tonight.
Y'all, please, man, y'all come
Started
out.
today, yeah.
Yeah.
From 1 o'clock.
Well, the I know. Well, you're a little different. Put one cap on your head. Cover up your mole. Cover up your mole. Well, I think the topic today is a little different. Mm-hmm. Still talking about relationships.
Ed had to step up.
Yes,
by the way, just so
he had to step out.
His voice, but go ahead.
Still talking about relationships, but not between husband, spouse, partners, or anything like that, but between parent and child. So, I get all my inspiration off of social media sometimes. Like Ed says, the interwebs, the internets. And so I had seen this post last week, and I wanted to talk about it last week, but it was Valentine's Day, and I figured, we should talk about that. But anyway, so it's this post, and I will read it, where it says, okay, so this is what this person said. Mm-hmm. Your mother gave you life. It's true whether you acknowledge it or not. So when your mom needs help, and you have the means to help, you help, period.
There's financial assistance.
Whatever kind of assistance they need. It could it may be, health. They need help, health-wise, or whatever reason it may be. The music's still going.
Is the music still going?
Yeah, man.
Oh, that's okay.
No, turn it off. I didn't know it was still going.
I can't talk with that music.
Hold on, you all don't know about bed music?
So
it's so nice in the bed.
Soft. So nice.
No. I didn't know. See, that's why I need my headphones. I didn't know what was going on when
I just caught myself when I stopped talking. I hear this music still going on in my ear, and I'm like.
So therefore, while you were speaking, you did not hear it. So it was nice and soft in the background. But anyway. Now that Ed is here, it's off.
What's that?
No, the topic is about parent-child relationship, and the what did I say? The post on Facebook was, your mother gave you life, and this could be mother or father. This is what we're talking about, parents, and it's true whether you acknowledge it or not. When your mom or your dad needs help, and you have the means, you help. Period. And so that sparked quite the conversation. You know, you had some people talking about, well, I shouldn't feel obligated. You know, your child didn't ask to be here. Why would you want to put a burden like that on your child?
Right.
You know, and this could be financially helping them, or, you know, if they fall ill and helping them in some sort of, you know, I'm taking care of you physically, all sorts of things, you know. And, you know, there were some comments about, well, it depends on, I know we talked about this, Rogi. It depends on, it just...
Yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah, it depends on your relationship with your parents.
Yep.
And then you have some people who are very absolute, like this post here, that said,
you help your mom and dad
regardless, honor thy mother and father, you know, whether they've been good to you or not.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
They could kick rocks.
If your parent,
What are your thoughts, Ed?
well, it's not going to happen. If your
heard it,
parent
right?
was an abusive parent, you could forget it. You could. I mean, if someone was, you know. So you're telling me, let's go with the extreme. You know, you always got to take the extreme and go to the middle, right? If there's a child who was sexually abused and physically abused by their father, like the woman in the dungeon in Germany, that they must be honoring their mother and their father? The heck with that.
That's why I can't
They
be
send their mother and father to jail. That's the only honor you get there. And jail can take care of them. So you know, so there's gray, right? There's black and white, you know.
And let me tell you something. We have so many scenarios in this country where fathers or mothers aren't there for their children, okay? So you have one parent raising the child in a single parent home. And so they don't have a connection to that other parent, or sometimes the parent who was there just wasn't really hands-on, or they didn't care how you ate, they didn't care how you got things. Sometimes you find parents who put their kids up to do things, you know, the young girls, you go with a boy or whatever, just to have some money, to have, you know, lunch money or whatever. They haven't been the ideal parents. So now that they're adults, how can you as a parent expect your kid to turn around and then assist you? And yes, I am going to the extreme, but what I'm trying to show is that every parent ain't like the perfect parent who's been there for their kid, and then their child feels a sense of obligation to be there, you know, and assist the parent. And even if you don't guilt trip your kid into helping you, I would hope that, you know, your child would look and say, you know, you've been a fantastic parent and I see you're in need. I want to assist you, but don't guilt trip your child.
Right, it should be a more natural, like you said.
Yeah, I would assume, and I know good parents, excellent parents, who the irony is don't want to be a burden on their child.
Their child, right.
I would hope that the flip side of that is some crappy parent don't have no expectation of getting things from their children.
Do have expectations.
Well, then they're nuts. So.
Well, you know, I mean, and you know,
do unto others. Let's go Bible on them. Do unto others.
And you know, you have people like, oh, well, you know, don't put me in no home. I'll haunt your hip for the rest of your life.
Yeah, good, because we don't believe in haunting. Keep on going.
False all around my bed. You and your haunting can kick rocks. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I mean, man, I hear that a lot.
String on my arm.
And you know, and you know, you have people who, and then they resent you, and then you know.
Yeah.
No. Sorry.
What's that?
No,
he couldn't have possibly gotten here by now.
No.
Yeah.
No, but it's funny because I told you, like, earlier when we were having this discussion, I said we had the same discussion at work today, because you find so many people just are like, oh, you're supposed to help your mommy and your daddy. Doesn't matter what situation. I don't care if they were good to you or bad to you. Honor thy father and thy mother. That's what the Bible says. I'm like, yeah, I know what the Bible says, and I'm sorry to say it like this, but if you have not been an ideal parent to me, you should have no expectations that I will assist you in any way, shape, or form. I grew up in a single parent household, and my mother was excellent to me and my brothers and my sister. And so when she's in need, I feel like it's a natural thing for me to help her. I want to help her. Why wouldn't I want to help her? Right. Now, another parent might ask me for something and they weren't an ideal parent. I can't help you. I don't want to help you.
But even if your natural response is to assist, right? And say you have an ailing parent, I mean, that needs around the clock type of care. I mean, even though you want to be there and you want to do that, and that, I mean, don't you think that that can carry a weight on you and your family?
It can, but I'm prepared. And it's not an easy thing, so I don't want to make it seem so simplistic, because there are instances where you have parents who really need around the clock care. You know, it's taxing. For me, for the love that I have from my mother, I don't care how burdensome it is for me, I'm gonna do it because that's the love I share with her. I want to do that.
Right.
If again you're somebody who was not an ideal parent, and I keep saying ideal, I don't want to just say crappy parent. If you were not an ideal parent, I don't know that I'd feel that same level of connection where I'd want to assist.
Yeah.
Well, I
That's
think,
me.
like you say, you know, there's a couple of interesting thought processes. One is, it's got to be do unto others. You know, I mean, if you're going to have an expectation in life
Be good to your kids.
that you're going to have someone want to take care of you, then, you know, do the right thing.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean the kid might not think you were harsh or strict. But you know what? Most kids who come from strict backgrounds, not abusive, strict backgrounds, realize later on in life that was a good thing.
That was a good thing. Mommy and Daddy
Okay,
were
yeah.
trying to help me.
Realize it's a good thing. The other thing is, of course, I go back to my premise of, you know, the natural order of things.
It's not
We should be dead
natural.
before that even happens. That's the problem. We got the antibiotics and things going. So
Making you live
making
so
you live
long.
forever, so that you have to. You know, there are people who live, and I know we got to go. There are people who are living now in conditions in terms of, you know, being kept breathing, so to speak. That
No quality of life.
Not only quality of life, the expectation or the requirement to keep them or to support them is way beyond the means of some people, way beyond the medical costs. Anyway, we're going to take a break. We're going to go to the news. We'll be right back.
It's out of obligation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking about this whole parental thing and expectations. It's case by case, like everything we talk about. There's no
Right.
There's no cookie cutter,
absolute,
no.
Like the post.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
what
that-
generated all of the comments because it was so rigid.
absolute. Yeah.
You know.
This is why, you know, I get all riled up. I don't get riled up anymore, but this is why, you know, when you see these books like Cosmo, does Cosmo still exist?
Yeah.
It's still a magazine, and they have these things about the way to
Yeah. I
please
hate
your
those.
man.
I hate
Yeah,
those.
8
No,
ways,
no,
9
no,
ways.
no.
Yeah.
That's not it.
I
Okay.
hate those.
What man is that? There's one man, and everyone was. There's only one man, and he wrote in and said, "These are my 8 things."
I think they took a survey of 100.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
But I
Okay.
want to say too that, you know, just even with this topic, I think a lot of parents need to stop looking at their children as retirement plans.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Big time,
And labor
not
in the old days.
not setting themselves up for retirement properly, and then expecting their kid to come in and save them. You know, and I said this off the air, and I'll say it again. And this is just my observation, and it's not a general statement. This is just what I've observed. I find that in the Black community, a lot of Black people tend to look to their kids for just that as a retirement plan to help them. Oh, if things ain't work out and I didn't save or whatever, my daughter could take care of me, or my son could
Right.
take care of me. Whereas I've observed a lot of white people who will say, I want to be in a position to help my kid. Okay, so my kid wants to go and do their master's program or PhD or whatever. I want to be able to you know, send my kid off to school, or I want to be able to help my child with the wedding or whatever. So, and that's not all white people, and that's not all Black people, but that's just my observation. And we need to just make sure that we have our savings in place so that we can take care of ourselves in the latter years, in those years when you're not working, rather than depending on your kid to come through for you and then getting frustrated when he or she doesn't. Because let me tell you something, you have some parents who are great to their kids, and their kids will still turn around and kick them in the butt and be like, I ain't doing that for you. I have my own life. So you got to think about that as well.
I would.
But
I don't know.
Is that a bad thing?
What's that?
Having that attitude? No, that.
I think if your parent has assisted you a great deal in your life,
But isn't that if-
and they need assistance, for me, I would help. If I see somebody been assisted by their parent gave them everything, and then they turn around and like, I ain't helping them. I do think I would look at that person a certain way.
Well, I mean, I think, but like you said, it's case by case. Because I mean, if I've been very well to my child and I've set my child up to the point where, you know, I shouldn't. I'm not going to look to my child now to help me out. You know, maybe.
What if you have a catastrophic illness and that wipes out a good deal of your money or something like that, and now you need help from your kid? Because that happens.
Well, listen, we have an era right now, for instance, of Alzheimer's. Okay, I know tons of people.
Oh yes.
So first of all, I'm not infringing on anyone's opinion. I don't know if I could generalize it by race, but I know this. I know a lot of people whose parents have Alzheimer's. And it has a lot to do with the fact that we're living so much longer. And then by the way, I'm seeing all kinds of things that influence this, like the kind of sugar like aspartame and all these type of things that do damage. And people are put in some very challenging positions. Mm-hmm. Very challenging positions. So you might have people, for instance, who their parent lives here in the Bahamas. They have a career in the States. They might be the only child. It gets there's a lot of structural planning issues that can, you can't just uproot and come to the Bahamas, and you can't necessarily bring the person. So it gets very challenging. So I just think, you go through life, you do the right thing, and then whatever happens, happens. It is literally case by case. You would hope that if you do the right thing, then, like you said, we were saying how most parents who really have the interest of their child at heart don't ever want to be a burden on their child.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you, my mother,
regardless of the position they're in.
Oh, my mother, man, my mother, I could burst out crying. My mother, if I had to try to give her $1, she was concerned that I wasn't saving that for my own benefit. Even though she had done so much for me, she could not get past that. Listen, no, you take care of your family. You take care of yourself. You do this for you. You save up to get a home. You do this to get you. That's how her impression was. Not an inkling. So I had so she set herself up for gold, because I had zero problems in making sure that she was set, or that she was taken care of.
She said, like you said, she saved or whatever for her retirement.
No. She wasn't. My mother was my mother was a cashier in a hotel. They ain't had no retirement.
No. But people can save up money. I mean, you don't have to have no retirement plan, but people of that generation, a lot of them would still start.
But my mother, just to tell you, my mother, I say this very proudly. Okay, my mother probably made, at the pinnacle of her career, probably $175 a week. Okay? They had no pension plan. She managed to help get 4 kids through college. Don't ask me how. I don't know how. We had to do some stuff on our own. But there's mortgages, there's light bills. There was no savings.
Yeah.
Okay? But what I'm saying is, in spite of all of that, and despite all the sacrifice she made, never had no brand name, nothing. No Gucci, nothing. Okay? She put herself where she would say to me, don't do that. Keep it, save it.
Right.
But the position she put herself in is, there was not a bone in my body that wouldn't help her. You see what I'm saying? She didn't have to ask. She didn't have to bet.
Right.
Nothing.
That's my point.
So it's case by case, and this is the deal. You treat others how you want to be treated, and then it'll all work out. And anyone who doesn't reciprocate is what they are. You know what I'm saying? If you have a parent who is treating their child and giving their child what they need to succeed in life, and that child doesn't help out later on, their karma can be bad.
Absolutely.
So
I agree.
That's it.
That's just a circle of. That's just a
It will be.
circle of life.
I agree with that.
Their karma will be bad, because when you get to that stage, you're the one to know. Oh shoot! How come he ain't checking for me? I ain't here stooling of myself and no one wiping me down.
What?
No, but what happens if your parents keep declining your help? Like, no, I'm okay. I'm good.
Yeah, but that's fine. But you can know when they at some point they're about to decline. They can just need.
Yeah, they'll need it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
It's a case by case, and it depends on your relationship with your parents
and your resources.
And your resources.
Yeah, it's a combo.
So,
all right, let's listen, Candy. That was a good one.
That was a really good one.
We'll talk. We have talking to do.
Yes.
All right.
Do a promo for a Tide Goat.
Listen.
She on all kind of things now. She got all kind of stuff going on now.
No. Tie go in loose.
Yeah.
She's tight.
Yeah.
But over there. over there.
Over there. All right, baby. Well, listen, we got to run. We got our special guest coming on, Mr. Pat Rahming. That's good. I hope he brought his book. I really do. He was rushing to the house. I hope he brought his book. We'll be back in a second. I will say this about our guest. It is not often First of all, you go to your dad fast, man. You must be
Yeah, that
speed
was
for your
quick,
old
real.
age. It is not often. Many times when people do radio shows, they have a problem finding the type of guest that I would say is comparable to the kind of guests you see on these talk shows, as we say, stateside, where there's a line of authors and poets and songwriters and creative people. We have many. There's no doubt about that. But you could pull them a dime a dozen out of the United States when you're in the United States. And while we have many here, I have to say that we probably have one with us today who is certainly at the top of that heap, and that's Mr. Pat Rahming. How you doing, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. Where should I send the check?
Hey, whatever. Just send it often. That's what the main thing. Don't even know where. Just send it often.
Grease him up, but send the money to me.
But it is a pleasure to have you, Pat. I've known you now at least
long time.
30 years. At least I can say at least 30 years, and from my days at the Nassau Guardian and beyond. And boy, I don't even know where to begin with you.
I'll go one step further.
Yeah.
A place you wouldn't want to go.
Where's that?
Your father was a part of a poker group that started 51 years ago.
So you know me before I know me.
All for that.
And you know me before I know myself, as they used
Well,
to say.
actually, I've only been with him 47 years,
Okay.
46
All right.
years.
Okay, yeah. Well, so yeah. But so let me ask you. You acted.
Yes.
Were you in a
I
group where
received-
my father acted? I know that. Did you ever do anything with him?
No.
What was that group called back then?
The
Nassau
group, he
Players,
was
or-
no, he was the University Players,
Okay,
wasn't he? I
okay,
think he was
yeah,
University
yeah, yeah.
Players, yeah.
And I had no clue what was going on, Rogan, right? I know we would drop him to this place. The Dundas. But I didn't know what was going on in there. He was like 5 years old, man. What they doing in there? He's going to act. What the heck is that? Anyway, but yeah, that's interesting. You have such a there's a lot, man. There's probably one of these at least 2-part shows. But what really kind of catalyzed this was an article you recently wrote on your blog. Did you see it, Rogan?
No, you told me about it.
Yeah. It's called.
This is on Facebook?
Yeah, it's on the
I'm not on
Facebooks.
Facebook
Yeah.
anymore.
No. It's on. Pat has a blog, but I what do you call it? I
Follow.
did a
Retweeted
link.
it?
I did a
Retweeted
link.
it.
I did a
A
link.
link.
To it, and let me. I want to pull it up, and I'm just going to read something from it, real quick, because we can do that now because of the internets.
Is this talking about the generations and their failings?
The generations, and it's called. The article was called. I'm ashamed of my generation, and it repeats it in the prologue. I'm ashamed of my generation. We dropped the ball 50 years ago, which has led to almost 2 generations of spoilt children. Now, interesting, because I saw something that I had forwarded to you when we were dealing with the phones, which not only dealt with the phones, but how we have molded our children, and that it's not their fault. It's the table we set for them. So I want you to tell me what sparked you to think down this road.
Well, first of all, there wasn't any need for sparking. I mean, it's a thought that's been around for years and years and years. Back in the 80s, I started writing about the fact that we are not addressing the core issues for human development in the country. I suggested that we would be where we are now in 1980, was it 86?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't there. You suggested it.
And the reason was very clear. I mean, if you don't pay attention to the things that make men civilized, then you will create people who are not civilized, and that's what we've been doing.
At lunch, I was talking to someone who you may know, although she may be Julie Lightbourne. You know Julie? Used to be at AdWorks, now runs Sip Sip in Grand Bahama. And we were just talking. I was telling you I was coming on the show, and I was saying how I was referring to your article. And that when you look at the example, we always compare ourselves to Singapore, where the gentleman who ran that country decided, I'm going to have rules like you can't chew gum in public, which may seem extremely trivial and autocratic, but the reality is it led to order and to that civilization that you talk about. Why do you think we didn't take that tact?
We started a party and we forgot to stop. In 1973, we became independent, and somebody equated independence to freedom.
The end.
And so we ran out into the middle of the field and we started partying, and nobody ever said, okay, the weekend's over, time to get back to work.
We didn't see that as a beginning, almost as the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's semi.
By the way, there is a follow-up blog.
Okay.
It's called You're Young, Now Get Over It.
Okay, so.
Right? Yeah, because one of the things that's happening now, following on what you're saying, is I absolutely believe that we dropped the ball and we've created this generation of spoiled children, spoiled, entitled children. But they're now adults, and there's nobody responsible for them anymore. So they need to start behaving like adults as well, because they have children that they're responsible for.
But how have we spoiled them? A lot of times people talk about your generation and they say, hey, you got it right. So this is a different viewpoint that I'm hearing from you, that they've dropped the ball, I'm
gonna give you an example that may be difficult because it's historical. I was a part of the hippie generation in North America. And in 1969, I walked into a room, and everybody in the room seemed totally depressed. And it was, like February or March or something. And this was in the Students' Union, and I expected people to be playing the guitar and singing songs and having beer and all that. But everybody seemed so depressed. And by the time I found out what the problem was, it really shocked me. Here were a bunch of people who were in university but didn't know why they were in university. Their parents, who had been war kids, didn't have the opportunity to go to university, so they swore that their kids were going to go to university.
Even if you want to be a mechanic, you're going.
And so they put their kids into university, and now the kids were about to graduate, and they had no idea why they had been at university.
Right.
And it really was depressing them. And we've done pretty much the same thing. Those of us that were around in the 50s and 60s and early 70s, right? What we've done to our children is that we've tried our best to make sure they don't have to be as underprivileged as we see ourselves as having been. And in so doing, we've created monsters. Some of the monsters are dressed in three-piece suits, and some of them have their pants falling down. But they're all monsters.
Monsters in the sense that there's a sense of entitlement that they feel?
That's the beginning of it. There is no responsibility. People do not accept that they are responsible for what happens in this country. It's somebody else is going to solve the problem. Think about it. When was the last time you heard of a conversation about politics where they weren't talking about who's going to be the leader? Who's going to solve the problem for me? Right? The problem is it's your country. And so much so that we have ads on TV that teach you how to be a bad citizen. If you see a crime and you report it, you'll get paid for it. Well, for heaven's sakes, as a citizen, it is your responsibility to report it, whether you get paid or not. It's teaching people to be bad citizens. And we do that at every level. We have done it to our children, and it's killing us.
It has killed. Listen, Pat, my friend, let me say, you couldn't have echoed words that are more true. Every single one of us, and I don't exclude myself, is looking for, in fact, not only are we looking for someone else to do it, we bypass that which we can do.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Okay? There are things in our neighborhoods that we can do. Okay? I when I was doing We the People, Rogan, right? I would go on these radio shows and I would begin to feel silly because I'd be talking to these guys about these, who they want to talk about lofty things, right? And I would be talking about, how about if you have a problem in your community where dogs are throwing over your garbage cans, right? How about if you get together with your neighborhood and you get pallets or whatever and you construct enclosures for your garbage cans so that when you come home on a daily basis, there wouldn't be garbage. And I began to feel like an idiot. How about when you see your street sign fallen over, right? Rather than waiting for the Ministry of Works to get to you because you're number 999, why don't you get together as a neighborhood and fix the damn thing? But that's what we do. We're waiting for someone to solve our problem.
Now there's something that exacerbates the problem that I don't really expect people to
do what the government is supposed to do.
No, I don't expect people to catch this, right?
Okay.
It's something I've been talking about for 40-something years, but I don't really expect people to catch it. Are you aware that this is the only country in the world that has no vehicle by which an average citizen can get involved in the governance of their country?
Yes, I am, acutely.
Well,
but actually,
how is that possible? And we have not, in 43
years,
some years, corrected it.
Well, I'm gonna trump that. I'm not gonna trump it. I'm going to call that. You say use a polka, okay? Using the polka
call
reference.
And raise.
Yeah, call and raise. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, there are vehicles, and but they're not formal vehicles. Okay.
Let me
throw one. Can I throw one at you? Okay. So right now in our party system, the leader of the party, the almighty leaders, they select the candidates, correct? But should you decide to get off your duff collectively, you can overwhelm the party machinery and you can select your candidates yourself, because the party machinery would be at the whim of the vast majority of the people who decide they want Rogan to represent me.
You don't understand what I'm saying.
So I didn't get it either.
You don't understand what I'm saying.
Okay, tell me.
I mean, seriously, you don't.
Tell me. We're here to be enlightened by Mr. Rahming.
Let me see if I can explain it, because it is so crystal clear that it's I don't know, it bowls me over that it's so hard to understand. I'm going to give you an example again. If you lived in Miami, you decided you were going to get involved in politics.
Run for dog catcher.
Right? That's right. You might run for dog catcher.
Right.
You run for some municipal office.
I get it.
Right? Then once you get your feet wet and you have some understanding, then you might go to a county office and then a state council office, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what does that do? First of all, you're involved in governance even though you're a dog catcher.
At a lower level.
Right? You have a defined level of responsibility that various people look to you to
perform.
I am saying to you
that doesn't exist.
That fundamental governance requires that.
Right. Well, we just so you feel good that no one didn't get it. I will refer to you. There was a woman during the Democratic National Convention who said that she was, what do we call those ladies? The people who their son died in war. A family who died, I forget what they call them, something families where they were, their child had been killed in the war. And Barack Obama had met this lady twice. And as a result of speaking with him, she said, at 80 years old, I ran for the school board. I get it. We don't have that. But
No.
we do have school boards here. We have local government. Why do you say we have it?
We have no local government by definition is autonomous. And anybody who thought what we have is local government would have discovered otherwise when V. Alfred Gray called the administrator.
Right.
And he didn't even have to say to the administrator what he was saying.
He
The
just called it.
administrator
Just say, "How you doing?"
understood what it was the call was about. Now, the point is, what we call local government is a department of the central government.
Right. It's not centrally
Autonomous
funded.
local government would be self-funded to a defined extent.
Exactly.
It would have its own sphere of responsibility.
In a municipal, like you say, in the United States, that would be funded by property tax at the property tax level, and they would have complete autonomy from the state, federal, town, etc.
Absolutely. Now, and
I'm glad you hooked on this, because
what's
if you've been listening to anything we're saying, one of the biggest things we say, and Nicolette Bethel has said it, we need more government.
Well, the thing is that this isn't more government. This is, I'm saying to you that without it, the government you have is crippled.
Right.
It's missing a limb. Right?
Well, she said in the context, Pat, though, not that we need more government. I know that argument, but that we have such a centralized government in such a small in the hands of such a small grouping of people as opposed to at the local level.
Well, the reason I don't talk about it at that level is that there are principles that guide countries that have nothing to do with size, have nothing to do with who the population is or what their ethnic makeup is or any of that. And we don't address the principles. And I'm saying that a fundamental principle of governance,
A structural reality.
it's an absolute structural reality, is that you have to have one sphere of responsibilities that is national and another sphere
That is
of
local.
responsibilities that's local.
So
It's
that
impossible to do it
that
otherwise.
guy can fix and has the resources and the scope and the purview to fix that street sign.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's like I say, I'm glad you say that people miss it, but I can tell you, I know that Rogan Smith and I have been talking about this from almost day one.
Well,
that this is the element that is the missing link.
I will tell
Otherwise,
you,
we have a monarchy.
I will tell you that when I say people miss it, everybody's acutely aware of it. That's what the We March organization is about. They don't realize that that's what it's about, though. That's the problem.
And no, I'll tell you that I've spoken to the young man many times, right? And the one thing I say is, if there's one issue, and there's a civil society meeting, they had a civil society meeting on Saturday. Were you aware of it?
I was aware
They had
of
a
it.
civil society meeting on Saturday, Rogan, and if you look at their agenda, I wasn't able to attend. If you look at their agenda, the things you're talking about, political reform, which is grand, local government, primaries in the system, all of these things, all these things we're talking to bring the governance down, as opposed to, like I'm throwing this at you. Would you agree, Mr. Rahming, Mr. Writer of many things, that we essentially have an exaggerated monarchy compared to the monarchy we quote unquote escaped in 1973?
Well, I would agree, but not for the reason we're talking about. I mean, even the monarchy, Britain is a monarchy.
Right, but
it's got 5 levels of government.
That's
We
why I
have
said
one
exaggerated.
level of
That's why I
government.
said exaggerated. That's why I said exaggerated. We have in the office of the Prime Minister is the power to give lands and titles.
Yeah, here's the point I'm making. With one single change, that is the creation of an autonomous local government, almost every
Everything
one
would change.
of the complaints that people have today
Would vanish.
would vanish.
I agree, sir. I don't disagree. We got a break here to take, Osprey?
Yeah.
No? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, 3 more minutes. All right. So tell us now that we realize this, and we know it's like if you have an ice tray and you want ice, you realize you got to have a refrigerator. So you go and you buy a refrigerator. Go down to Jeffrey Jones. I got to give him a plug. You go down to Jeffrey Jones and you get a refrigerator. You put the ice tray in the water in the freezer, and if you want a cold drink, right? When the ice freezes, you have a cold drink. Pat Rahming knows, as many people do, that the one missing link that will change things dramatically, things that would tentacle off from it, is this absence of local government. Where's the refrigerator?
Well, first of all, the first thing he does is he comes on Ed's Field show, because that gives him an opportunity to say that again. Because having written about it written an essay in 1972 that addressed it, having published a book in 1992 that addressed it, having spoken to more Rotary clubs than you can shake a stick at about it, what I've found is that we are essentially resistant to the idea of doing anything that changes what we presently have. I've listened for the last, you can actually go back all the way to the last election. There is almost no program you can listen to, talk shows, etc., that you can listen to where 75% of the conversation is not about how do you win the next election. We don't talk about, we have an economy that's in the tank. We don't talk about it. We have no idea how to fix it, and we ain't even talking about it.
Can EFL take any kind of credit that at least we talk with people about it?
I want him to finish. I say I have to disagree with you because EFL and Fields Live has led that charge.
You want me to repeat myself? I can repeat myself.
Repeat yourself.
We don't talk about it, right?
Outside the show.
Ed Fields may be just like me, voice of the wilderness. We have an education system that we understand is not functioning.
It's broken.
But we don't talk about it.
You know, I want to ask you something that may be extremely pivotal.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who's listening out there, and it's like one of these things like where, you know, if you're a model and you happen to be at the mall, the right person might see you and you end up as you get discovered. Okay, so we only talk these things because we're powerless except to talk about it, right, Rogan? But that someone might discover it. You know what I mean? The question in my mind, sir, and I thank you for validating, so I don't feel like I'm cracking, because I imagine you must have felt like you've been cracking for many years. Okay, that the one thing that I think is the missing link is this issue of self-governance. You can call it local government, you can call it whatever you want, but it's the issue of self-governance, okay? And the question is, we have been missing a pivot, a common cause for many years. We had majority rule, we had independence, and then, like you say, we just had a party. Can this issue of local government and self-governance be our next common cause?
It should be. It should have been since 73. It should have been. There is no governance without self-governance.
It's of the people.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back.
Brought to you by Superwash, National Fencing,
I'll tell you what,
Scottdale Bedding, Subway, Seafowl.
Pat Rahming, and I'm going to, before you leave, we're going to set another date so we can continue this conversation. In fact, if you don't mind, sir, and I've not done this publicly, I would like to see if we can get you on, if you would concede to this. This is I never done at least once a month because you see, because you know why? At least I don't seem like I'm insane. I don't. At least we'll have our own echo chamber in here if you will concede to do that. But
there's nothing wrong with being insane. You know?
I always tell people, now, see, you're second. See, now I'm going to fall in love with you because here's this. I always tell people, you know what? how do you know you're sane? If you can't gauge against me.
Let me tell you what being insane means. If everybody around you is doing foolishness and you're doing something and you think it makes sense, as far as they're concerned, you're insane.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
That's cool. Because when you don't have to go into shelter and they do.
There you go.
Listen, I said to you off the air, and I'm so happy about this because I really, really believe that we can change this nation around. It's not an aircraft carrier. It's more of a, I don't know. I wouldn't say a dinghy, but certainly it's not an aircraft carrier. Things can be changed around. But sooner or later, someone has got to flip the switch. Mm. And you're sitting here, you know it. I assume the people in Long Island know it. Mm-hmm. I assume the people in Abaco know it. Mm-hmm. Eleuthera, Mayaguana, all these people know. Why don't let us build our own dock? Mm-hmm. Why don't give us the power to do that? Why do I have to come to someone at Goodman's Bay to get that thing done? But how can we? I'm just begging. I'm begging you. How do we get that to happen?
I think the first thing we have to do is change the conversation. I heard somebody on one show say, there's power in the tongue. Mm-hmm. And that is true. If you honestly listened to talk radio for 1 week, what you'd realize is that the vast majority of what you hear is not nonsense, but stuff that has no impact on moving the country in any direction.
Mm-hmm. Noise?
It is noise. It is all noise. I don't care who wins the election in South Beach. So I don't want to listen to a whole afternoon of, this party has a stronger base in this area than that party. And last time so-and-so happened, and this organization is gonna take some votes from that. I don't mind doing that for the week before election, but we've been doing that since the last election. We have talked about nothing but how to win the next election since the last election.
Based on who is the leader and who ain't the leader.
Absolutely. And 90% of it does not matter. 90% of it does not matter. Look back over your lifetime, you will find that it didn't matter.
So Rogan always chides me to say, not chides me, but would suggest that, who is running matters. And let me say by that. Mm-hmm. But I've always said, based on what you're now saying, that in reality it doesn't, because they're only focused on how to win the election. But are you saying that if people who are candidates would speak to things that we're trying to speak to now?
No.
Would people listen?
That's not what I'm saying.
Well, tell me how is it?
I'm saying that you and I have to change the conversation.
It has to be outside the local.
The shoe is on the wrong foot altogether. Somebody walks into your house and they say to you, Ed, I'm running for so-and-so. Here is my platform. Well, the shoe is on the wrong foot.
It already gone wrong.
They're applying for a job, and they're telling you what they're going to do.
Yeah.
They're establishing what the issues are.
As the employer, I should be establishing the criteria.
I need to be establishing what the issues are.
And that's what, for instance, We March is saying, look, we're establishing the criteria. That's the embryo of that kind of thought.
Well, it is the embryo of that kind of thought. I may have some concerns about the fact that there's a disconnect. And the disconnect is that because we have trained you guys so badly, right? Mm-hmm. You immediately see that movement not as let's change the conversation, but as a confrontational thing.
And I support you. I don't feel that way as well. I agree with you that that's the wrong approach.
We have to be in a position where when politicians begin to speak, they are actually concerned about what it is we think about.
Right.
But to do that, we have to be thinking about something.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was going to say, Mr. Rahming, you said the shoe's on the wrong foot. A lot of times politicians go to door, you're right, and they present what they want to do when they're elected.
Yeah.
But the people don't have ideas for what they want in their constituencies or what they want in their country.
And
so they're part of the problem as well.
Absolutely, they're the whole problem, not part of the problem. And this is where I go back to this question of the responsibility,
Yeah.
you see. They don't actually believe that they are the employers.
They don't.
Yeah, you're right.
They don't.
See, they
You're
believe
absolutely right.
they believe that they are tenants in this apartment building, and the landlord has come to talk to them.
Were you here last week?
I love the
Were
way
you, no,
you
but
said
were you here last week, Osprey, when we were
my
talking with?
God.
I don't know if Erica was here or Rogan was here, and I
I was
kind of
here
went
last
off
week.
on a little tirade in the sense that I said I am sick and tired of people treating members of Parliament as if they are their masters. These are employees sent to do a job and should be recalled when they're not doing it. But again, this is another switch that has to be flipped.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just to say a word about that, people keep asking for accountability. There is no accountability without consequence.
Yeah, thank you.
So if you don't have the right
Thank you.
to recall your member of parliament, he is not accountable to you.
Exactly.
Full stop. Right? So
And 5 years is definitely too long of a window for a recall.
5 days is too long. 5 days. If you hire somebody, it is
Thank you.
fundamental
Thank
that you
you.
have to be
Thank
able
you.
to fire them.
Thank you.
That's fundamental.
Thank you.
And we've had people who have been members of parliament who didn't show up in parliament for
I don't know they
years.
exist.
All right?
You say people, I don't know they exist.
Yeah. So, but
It would be hard pressed to go down every cabinet
cabinet
minister and remember every
here's
cabinet
the problem.
minister.
But here is the problem. To change that, it's not them we have
No,
to
of
change.
course not. It's us.
It's us we have to change.
Well-
It begins with us being prepared to take the responsibility. You'd be surprised how many people would rather not read the National Development Plan. Right?
They would rather not read it.
They'd rather
Yeah.
not read it. It's too long.
It's too taxing.
It's too long. Right? Now, if somebody got on the radio and started telling them what was in it, they'd be quite prepared to criticize the person that's telling them what's in it.
Or if they go on too long, they'll say that's boring.
But they won't actually
Go
download it
and
and read it.
themselves.
Right? And it's a question of saying, I am responsible. The word citizen means, to me, I am responsible
Personal
for
responsibility.
whatever happens in my country. Personally. Right? And I know I can't stop nobody from shooting somebody, but I feel strongly that if somebody shoots somebody, I have some responsibility somewhere. Right? Part of that responsibility at the moment is that I have dealt with social issues in such a way that the self-image of a major percentage of my population is so damaged that human life means nothing.
Nothing.
Right? And so I'm responsible for that. I'm responsible for that. And it may be another show for us to talk about that.
I was
because
trying to
that's
find-
a serious
I was
issue.
trying to find something, but I'm going to have to probably just maybe summarize it. But to your point, that we have been, this is going back, and I don't do this often, but it's only for the sake of reference. When we were talking, because it was a collective, it had nothing to do with me. When we founded this thing, We the People, the premise of it was that we, the people, have determined or have decided that we would cede off the responsibility to a small grouping of people for our collective well-being.
Well, I mean, I see
We
it.
made that decision.
Yeah, I see it as we the people have some managers, you know.
Have some what?
We have some managers. We hire some managers and they do our. But you see, if you
But we're not
don't,
holding-
if you don't know what the job is, you can't manage your managers.
Yeah, I want to kind of again call you on that and say We have not hired managers. We've hired masters. We have hired masters.
Our perception is that that's what we've done. You're correct.
Okay. I mean, when you just look at it, at it. You this is a small enough country that there's not a single one of us that has not had some intimate relationship with a member of parliament, because they're your brother, your sister, your schoolmate, your friend, whatever. And look at the transformation of the relationship. Okay? You know what I'm saying, Rogan? Look at the transformation of the relationship with someone who you may have known all your life, becomes an MP or a minister. And now where's that relationship? How is that relationship balanced? You're an underling to them. Okay? And you're treated as such, but worse, you treat yourself as such.
That's where it begins.
Yeah.
That's where it begins.
And that is worse.
That's where it begins.
Well, Mr. Rahming, I tell you, it's, someone asked me, as they do often, right? So what you can talk with Pat about? I said, well, why? First of all, we have no clue who we can talk about with most people when they come on, because it's a conversation. But there's no shortage of this type of thing, because I feel, if you look at, what's his name, Beck, Glenn Beck?
Glenn Beck.
Who I obviously oppose his ideology, okay, but what did he do? He kept hammering his message to a group of people until he had millions of people talking in a certain way. That's what we need to do. Absolutely. And that's what we will continue to do. Will you consent to coming on again? Yeah. That's the answer. Yeah. That's the answer. Okay.
A 5-second pause if it needed.
Yeah, you could write a song about that pause.
Let me just say something really serious for a minute.
Okay.
There's a reason people create towns and cities and countries, right? And the reason is that there's a need to satisfy the fundamental needs for groups of people, right? That's the reason. And if you want to know how well you're doing, all you have to do is take a look at what those fundamental needs are and see how you are satisfying them. Now, I am a fan of Abraham Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, which I'm sure you're familiar with. We are stuck on the idea of satisfying the bottom two. That is homeostatic needs, food and shelter, and safety and security. The question of belonging or community, we have absolutely no interest in. In fact, we're destroying community. And one of the ways we've destroyed it is that we've created governments that have, for their benefit,
just willy-nilly
made the word community synonymous with constituency.
Yeah, and just can change them at will.
There is no such community as Bain and Grantstown. That's two communities that are completely separated by Blue Hill Road. But they talk about themselves today as Bain and Grantstown. The question of creating facilities for the sharing of their culture and their ways of dealing with one another. We have not even attempted to figure out how to create value to individuals in our society. We don't honor one another. We don't honor our history. We don't. It's amazing that if you say, if I say I'm going to do a statue to Ed Fields, 27 people will call me in the next minute and a half saying, why Ed Fields? So-and-so has done the same kind of job, right? So what do we end up with? No statue to anybody, right? Nearly 44 years after independence or whatever it is, and we still don't have anything that honors our independence.
I know.
No Independence Square, no Independence Building, no Independence.
Let me give you an example, and we got to go, but I want to throw this in you, and this will lead into our next conversation.
Mm-hmm.
The birthplace of our independence, Clifford Park.
Mm-hmm.
I know you have. I certainly have. I've said to people, that park should look like how the Washington Monument looks, circled by flags year-round in pristine condition,
Absolutely.
with perhaps a museum or whatever.
Wow.
That's what it should be.
Wow.
But you know what it is? A dirt track.
Absolutely.
A dirt track.
It's embarrassing.
Well, I'll tell you what I try not to do. I know what it is I want to do.
That's a good idea.
I try not to say how to do it.
Because there's always many ways.
Because we got the most brilliant community on the planet. And people don't like me saying it. I spoke to somebody today who said I was guilty of hyperbole. You cannot find a community of 350,000 people anywhere on this planet that has the number of world-class individuals that we have. So we're a gifted people. We can do anything we want to do.
We just don't
but
know how
we've
to wrap it.
chosen not to because we don't want to take responsibility.
Well, we'll leave it at that. That's a good way to end. We'll come back, Pat Rahming. I'm looking forward to the next conversation
As am I.
because we just have to keep pounding this, Rogan Smith. Sooner or later, someone will discover the model, and they'll go and do the big things. Osprey, Rogan Smith,
Yes.
Mr.
feels.
Pat Rahming. Thank you very
Thank
much, sir.
you.